Hi guys and welcome. This is episode 88. In this video I'll be detailing one of the engines included in the Zukemura F-4C Phantom kit. Guys, in the previous video I did some touch-up work, also some rescribing of panel lines on the Zukemura F-4C Phantom, and it's time to move on to the next step. I'll be detailing one of the beautiful full engines provided in this gorgeous kit. Folks, this build is generously sponsored by Supernova Studio here in South Africa. They are stockists of premier Japanese brand Zukemura, and at the end of this video I'll be supplying a promo code that you can use to order this gorgeous kit at a discount. So back to the build. The F-4C Phantom is powered by two very powerful General Electric J79 engines, and in this video I'll be detailing two of these beautifully rendered engines that's included in the kit. The parts for these are included on the Sprue, and as you can see they are beautifully detailed, guys. Beautiful molding on this, and as well as the engine nozzles. This is quite rare. Usually one only receives the engine nozzles in an aircraft kit. Now guys, with these engines being available, I'd like to make maximum use of them. To just hide them inside the fuselage would be such a missed opportunity. But in my diorama I plan to have a full engine on display on an engine trolley. Now that leaves us with the question, what are we going to do about the jet itself? Well, I'll be using some aftermarket, in this case some engine nozzles from Edward. These are beautifully detailed as well, being resin and some PE parts. These are actually for the F4B, the B model, but as you can see there, they are exactly the same as what I find on the C model. So I'll be using these on the jet. Now, to hide the fact that there are no engines inside the fuselage, I'll be using these FOD covers or FOD covers from Def Model, and those will cover the air intakes, and also in the process lending some nice extra detail to the model. I realized early on that I would need to spray the inside of the engines themselves. You can see there's the afterburner ring, and I'll need to black out the inside of these engines before proceeding. So what I did is just apply some primer to the inside, this being Mr. Hobby, and just to black out those interiors of the engine. So there you can see those are the primed interiors, and the next step is just to assemble the inside, adding that afterburner ring and then closing up the two halves. So there you can see that's the inside, and we're ready to move on. Next step is just to clean up the seams by the sides, just sanding them flat, making sure I do the correct amount of gap filling. Now at this point, guys, I decided to spray some primer on the outside as well. This is usually something I keep for a later stage, but in this case I decided this might help me with adding some wiring as well, adding silver wiring on a black engine surface. Guys, now to add the extra wiring, I worked on what I saw visually on 3 reference pictures. Now, it might not be dead on accurate, but I tried my best to add some of the missing hoses and wires that I see in the reference picture. And if you look at a reference picture long enough, you start to notice things. A picture speaks 1,000 words, and it's also true in this case. So I tried to add more or less what I was seeing in my pictures. I used 3 gauges of wire, first being a 0.4mm lead wire, very easy to work with. A little bit thinner silver wire, 0.3mm, very easy to work with as well, very pliable. And then finally a thicker type, 1.2mm soldering wire or lead wire. So this was the different types of wire that I used to wire the engines. I also did some scratch building for this, all these little leftover PE sprues and tubes of brass were very handy. I also fashioned a few detail pieces from styrene card. You can see they're gluing it in place on that primed engine. And again, guys, I was pleasantly surprised. The black color certainly does make it easier to do this. Very important, as I mentioned before, always drill anchoring holes if you are going to add wiring. And this will just make it so much easier to glue these wires in place, using a little bit of gel type super glue and just guiding all those different sizes wires pre-bent into place. You can see there I'm adding a little bit of brass tubing just to replicate one of the parts that I was seeing in my reference pictures. And guys, really, I just kept going with this, adding what I was seeing, what was missing in my reference pictures, and trying to stick as closely as possible to that. And finally, this was the final result. At some point, you just have to stop and tell yourself that's enough, and this is the point that I reached here. So very happy with that. And this is now ready for the next step. Of course, that's being primer, using Mr. Hobby Primer again, just to prime those wires and the scratch pull detail. So having done this, the next step, of course, is pre-shading. And for this, I use some solid white, pure white, and just add a little bit of pre-shading to the engine itself. Black and white pre-shading. You've seen me done this many times before. So having done this, let's take a closer look. You can see there are very distinct color differences, some dark color at the back. We have some lighter, some yellowish tones, as well as some of the gray metal at the front. Now, to help me enhance this, I decided to add some color. And for the rear, I decided on blue and violet, just to get that burnt metal look at the rear of the engine over there. And I also decided just to help the yellowish part along by adding some yellow and some orange to the front sections. Now, guys, while I was doing this, I was really just sort of winging it. I was testing things, experimenting, seeing which colors will work. Maybe some of these steps were unnecessary, but in the end, I did reach my my result. And so yeah, I think these extra colors that I added definitely contributed to the final result of the painted engine. You can see they're adding some color, the yellow and the orange being the last colors that I added. So I do want to encourage you guys, be bold, experiment. We have the color, and use it to the maximum. So there we go. This is the finished pre-shaded engine with those color portions added, and this is now ready to take the metal colors that I wanted to add next. Now back to the engine. You can see there all those many different shades of metal color: the dark, the yellow, and the gray. Now to do this, I started off by selecting a few colors from the L-Clad range. Guys, these are fantastic paints, and my go-to paint brand for anything metallic. They are available from Supernova Studio. Now to get me started, I selected three basic, let's call it base colors. The rear portion, for that I used Jet Exhaust from L-Clad. You can see they're very realistic color indeed. Then for the middle section, that sort of yellowish tone there, for that I selected Pale Burnt Metal, very close to the real thing, very useful color indeed. And then finally for the front section, that sort of a light grayish metal color, the closest I had in my paint selection was Magnesium. So that would be the base color. Disregard the name itself. I purely went on the colors. Guys, and as is the case with working with pre-shaded surfaces, apply your base color very gradually. Thin layers, so as not to kill the pre-shading. So having done this, the next color up is Burnt Metal. And this will go on that yellow section that you can see towards the middle. Again, applying this very carefully, layering my color, gradually building it up. Finally, Magnesium, and that's for the remaining front section of that engine. Very gradually applying the Magnesium color. So there we go, guys. This is the basic metallic colors. It's certainly starting to look like the real deal. And to enhance the back, I used exhaust manifold and very sparingly started to building up the exhaust manifold color on the rear of that engine. Just to give it that burnt metal look, I used transparent blue and solid black. Transparent blue from Vallejo, of course, just to give it that sort of a burnt metal bluish look that one sees on metal that's been heated repeatedly. For some shading, I used pure black applied with the airbrush, and I also used the black on sections of the front of the engine just to enhance those shadow colors. So there you go. This is the shading, if you want, applied, and certainly enhancing the engine a little bit further. So on to the next step. This is Vallejo Smoke, and honestly this is one of the most useful colors to use when working with engines and mechanical elements of your builds. And this is applied to the rear, where there typically will be a buildup of carbon and smoky residue. Next up is some dry brushing. For this I used my Vallejo medium dry brush, one of my favorite brushes. And guys, you've seen me done this many times in my videos. Dry brushing just places some color on the exposed detail, the raised detail of the model, and this is very effective to bring out the wiring, all the hoses that's visible on that engine. So there we go, dry brushing done, and certainly adding a lot of extra detail to this J79 engine. Now, if you've been following my videos, you know that I'm a big fan of MIG Productions filters, and this one specifically is clear blue for metallics. And this, of course, being an enamel product, it can be thinned with enamel thinner. This one also being from MIG Productions. Now, guys, this is actually great stuff. It's a light blue sort of filter, and in this case, I thinned it with some thinner. And this is then just brushed onto the engine. What this does is give it that very distinctive bluish color that one sees in bare metal. You can see there, it's a very subtle effect, but very effective indeed. And the more of the product you apply, the stronger the effect will be. Next up is a color wash. I used a dark wash from MIG Productions, thinned with their thinner. And this will now run into all the recessed detail on that engine. Guys, in a later stage I'll be doing a video on the different uses of all these different MIG Productions filters. Very useful products indeed. At this stage I decided just to take another look at my reference pictures. You can see there's a high shine on many of those exposed hoses. And to get that shine, I'm going to use some graphite powder. I'm going to polish some graphite powder onto the engine itself using some cotton buds. This is very easy to do. Pick up some of that graphite powder and then just start polishing it onto the raised hoses and wiring that I've added to that engine. You can see very effective indeed in just enhancing that metal color, giving us a very realistic metal finish on that engine. Certainly loving this result. At this point I decided just to protect all the work that I've done up to this point, and I added a varnish, a flat varnish from Microscale, Micro Flat, just to protect that paint. The last step is just to add some engine grime. No engine will be complete and realistic without some of the usual grime that one will find there. And for this, I used one of the Ammo MIG products. This being an enamel product. This is just applied in a very thin coat to select areas of the engine where grime buildup is likely to happen. And I limited this to the front of the engine, where it will be nicely visible on that lighter metal. Guys, so there we go. This is the finished J79 engine, the one that goes into the Phantom. and this will make a very nice addition to the diorama that we will eventually be building for this Phantom display. Now, while the engine is finished, I'd still like to add a few elements to this. I'd like to scratch build a engine trolley from parts supplied by Zuke Mura, and that ugly side seam that's still visible there, I think I'll just cover that with a tarp. So I'll be doing some scratch building again at a later stage, but do stay tuned for that.
Courage, daring, and enormous skill are the hallmarks of the fighter crew. Their weapons were cannon and missiles.
Guys, we are celebrating Fabulous Phantoms at Supernova Studio, and if you use the promo code off the Sprue Phantoms, you will get a instant 10% discount on either the C model, the D model, the E model, the G model, or the Naval J model. Guys, these are absolutely gorgeous kits. They do belong in your stash, so do make use of this opportunity to purchase any of the above at a 10% discount. This is it then for episode 88. Thank you so much guys for joining me, for following along. As always, do follow me on Instagram. I do frequent updates on all my builds there, and you're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching.